All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on your place in the world. My name is Josh Palmer. I'm the head of content for eScribe. Thank you for joining us today. We'll get started here a little bit as soon as we reach a little bit of a quorum with folks in the room. But if you are here for procurement best practices for ensuring compliance and efficiency in your government purchasing, you are in the right place. It is 2 o'clock Eastern time on October 30th, so you're in the right place and the right time. We'll just give folks a few minutes to filter into the room here. But we are excited to have you here and talk about some of the procurement and contract vehicles that make your municipal purchasing easier. I should also note for our US-based clerks, city administrators, big thank you for all your tireless efforts in keeping our democracy going here. I know it's a busy time for a lot of clerks and local municipalities right now, so very thankful for you and your efforts there. All right, one past the hour. Without further ado, I'll start with just a quick few housekeeping items. Easy for me to say. Thank you for joining. As I mentioned, this is a Zoom webinar, so all audience members are mute by default. We do, however, encourage you to submit your questions, your comments, your feedback, your questions. We'll be monitoring both the chat function and the Q&A function. I'll be there as our presenters or our primary speakers make their way through their presentations. But I really do encourage you to ask any pointed questions you may have about specific topics or examples or anything like that. Frequently asked question, yes, we will send you the on-demand recorded version of this webinar. We'll typically send that out with about 24 to 48 hours of this presentation. So you will have both the deck and the recording of this webinar for your future consumption. And then one small ask of the audience, about 3/4 of the way through the presentation today, we will ask you to submit your answers to a very, very quick 15-second poll. Just helps us understand how we can present this content better next time and always be continuously improving. So without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce you to today's presenters. First up is Martin Gavin. He is the team lead of emerging technologies at Carahsoft. Welcome, Martin.
Oh, thanks, Josh. Thank you, everybody, also for attending, taking time out of your day.
Yeah, and one of my favorite people in the world, Ethan Drudger. I say that without any joke or hypocrisy there. I do like Ethan. He's one of my favorite people. He's an account executive here at eScribe, helping people connect to meeting management software. Welcome, Ethan.
I'm honored. Thanks, Josh. You are one of my favorites as well, and I mean that very sincerely as well, too. So
Great.
appreciate everyone being here today. Thanks, Josh, for the tee up.
Cool. Yeah, and Ethan, you're going to share just a quick overview of who we are and what we do in the meeting municipal management software area here.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone. Appreciate you being here. Martin, really appreciate you being here from the Carahsoft side as well, too. For everyone on the call, we'll be chatting with Martin about the main reason we're here today is really talking more about procurement and how you can expedite the buying process if you were interested in doing so, contracting vehicles and how Carahsoft plays a role in that. For anyone who is maybe less familiar with eScribe or hasn't seen eScribe lately, then just do a quick background here, spend 5 or so minutes, just quick background, really quick demo, because we've got a lot of new and exciting stuff to show as we've rebuilt our whole platform from the ground up. So go ahead and share my screen here quickly. A couple of really quick slides for everyone. Quick background about eScribe. We've been around for 15 years, originally a Canadian company, but we are wholly owned by Onboard out of Indianapolis in the US. They acquired us about almost 4 years ago now, and candidly, it's the best software acquisition I've ever seen or been a part of, as it's enabled us to really additional resources for us to grow our platform, further invest in building it out and making it even better for the public sector. So platform itself, agenda management software, we are solely focused on that, doing it very well. So we work with many cities, counties, special districts, school boards, police services boards, etc., across North America, growing like crazy. But that sole focus of agenda management software, like I said, it enables us to do this very well. And our biggest focus of the company is providing a really great client experience the entire time that you're working with us. So we all know software is only as good as the help that you have. And it's all about providing not just great training and implementation and helping you get up and running quickly. So we know how hard the challenges are of change management in the, the public sector world, especially, but great ongoing support as well too. So making sure that you have the help that you need, dedicated contacts to reach out to. And then, as I mentioned, we've been investing in our platform. We've rebuilt the whole tool and platform itself from the ground up over the past couple of years and started to roll this out to our clients, building on what we've had for those past 10 plus years and improving upon this based on client feedback and ensuring that we're meeting the market's needs as we're always looking for ways to be more efficient in all facets of our roles themselves. So yeah, couple of I guess this is the last slide that I'll really share here, and then I'll jump into a really quick demo. But with us, we are one single platform for preparing your agendas, everything behind the scenes from your reports, documents, agenda items, submission from your staff, and streamlining that process with online workflows and approvals. So making it easy, of course, to get your agendas together, easily issue those to your elected officials, publish them to your website, make it very easy for your residents to find the information that they're looking for and improve transparency on that front. But of course, making it easy for you to run your live meeting, take your minutes, potentially run a live stream as well. And then after the fact, being able to get those minutes together and have those approved, added to future meetings and report on everything. So as one single platform, whereas I know, others in this space tend to have kind of different facets of multiple platforms for different parts of the process. So with us, it's just one place. Everything lives in one place, which means great reporting capabilities, ease of use, and streamlining the process even further. And of course, huge focus on security and accessibility as well too. I know for everyone, I've seen a huge increase in the focus on security reviews in the municipal space over the past couple of years, and we're always working to keep up to date to ensure we're delivering a very secure experience. And then going back to that support and great client experience piece, everything's cloud-based. We take on the training and implementation. So that means it's very light for your IT team, which they always like to hear because we know they have enough on their plate as well too. So we take on getting you up and running. So one single platform, and another big differentiator is the fact that we are continuing to improve our platform and always adding in new functionality. So lots to come. And if you want to take a deeper dive look, then of course we can schedule some time with myself or one of my peers, and happy to take you through it and dive into different areas. I'll also mention we do board management, which is very, very much, very related to the agenda management world. So managing your boards and committees or commissions and the members and the applications and the terms and expiries of those, and making sure that you don't have to manage that in a spreadsheet anymore. So quick demo of the platform. I'm showing you eScribe 6, which, as I say, we launched earlier this year. Brand new look and feel, very modern look and feel to this. The whole reason we did this major upgrade is because we want to be ready for the next 5 years. Plus, built on modern architecture so that we can continue to add in new functionality based on what you might need, whether that's something maybe if that's something you haven't ever seen in any other software platform before. We're always open to ideas, but it's all about performance improvement, ease of use improvement. And like I said, it makes it a lot easier for us to add in new functionality for the future. So I will quickly share the public facing view, because of course, transparency is everything here. City of Greensboro, North Carolina. They've been with us for almost 5 years now. Came over to us from another platform. Greensboro even did a case study with us, which is available on our website. But for transparency for residents and for yourselves, maybe in the clerk's office or otherwise, making it easy for you to publish your agendas and minutes, supporting documents, etc. When we scroll down on Greensboro's council page, this calendar that we see here in search function, this is eScribe from the public facing view. So you, for yourselves, create an agenda, click a button, automatically appears here, built seamlessly right into your website. And then as well, once minutes are published, or maybe a revised agenda or another revised agenda, as we know tends to be the case, easily publish those updated documents to your site and make it easy for your citizens to find what they're looking for. So I can see some meetings from this month, look back on previous meetings as well, full search functionality to search for documents, vote outcomes, etc. And clicking into a meeting from back in August, we can see the agenda within a PDF-based view, but also a web-based view, and the minutes in the live stream or video that was run through eScribe as well. So when I click on a web-based view of the agenda, rather than as a resident having to download a PDF and sort through hundreds of pages, then with this, I see the web version of the agenda itself, immediately see the video is connected here, and all of the agenda items are broken out here. So if I only care about this specific item and conversation, then I can come here and click on this item, and the attachments for these are broken out on the right. So of course the resolution, supporting documents, but you also might have noticed that the video will automatically advance to that portion of that conversation. So I can capture the true spirit of what that discussion was and why the decisions were made. So really easy to find what we're looking for. As I say, eScribe does a lot of this stuff automatically. That's a quick look at the public facing view. And then internally, just a very quick look. Logging in here, we see our meetings, upcoming and previous, everything lives in here as long as you're using eScribe. Connected to each of these meeting dates are the agendas, minutes, supporting documents, agenda items, reports, attachments, etc., vote outcomes. And we can easily filter down based on different meeting types. We can run all your public-facing meetings through the platform if you want. And it's easy to look back and find information. Great search functionality. I search for the word water in here. I'll be able to find all the items containing that terminology, but also broken down by the agenda items or minutes, motions, supporting documents, and can jump to each of those. And I can even filter it down by meeting type to get very granular, quickly find what has historically been a lot of information in a lot of different folders, or maybe even physical files. To create a new meeting, really fast to create an agenda. I know I said I'd be 5 minutes. I'm taking a little bit of liberty with that, but I'll move very quickly through this. But I can create an agenda in just a couple of minutes, schedule the who, when, and where, create a meeting for, say, February of next year. Submission deadline is keeping our staff agenda item submissions from your department heads and otherwise, keep them on time, which I know is sometimes challenging to do. And I just created a meeting for February of next year. And clicking into this, eScribe has pulled in my agenda template of all my standing items. It's also starting to prepare my minutes at the same time. So I can see a bunch of items here. These items with the gavel on them have a vote built right into them. For example, when I click on this item, go to the details on the right, it's built this vote right in here. So in the meeting, when I'm taking minutes, I can pick my mover and seconder and result, or have others voting electronically, and it'll plug everything into our minutes for us. Really easy to add new items. I could say agenda, software, and place this under a specific category connected to different departments for reporting purposes, and add attachments in a regular file format. So I can add the PowerPoint from today's discussion, and eScribe will convert that over for me. That item is now on my agenda, and I can go to this packages tab, click a button, and this will prepare my agenda itself. Then furthermore, once that's ready, I click the publish button. I can send that out to the website or to our elected officials at 2 different times. And then minutes, taking those during the live meeting, it's very much the same look and feel, which is to say we're happy to schedule a demo and take you through this on a more thorough basis. But I can now see the agenda that I created in 90 seconds or less with that PowerPoint converted over. And lots more to go through, but I do want to bring it back to why we're here today. Just one last thought as well, too, is I know a big challenge is always knowing where agenda items are at any given time from your staff and keeping them on time. When we go to this document section, we can see all the agenda items, which meeting they're on. So staff creates them right in eScribe, really easy to do so, and which meeting they're falling on, when they were due, and where on the agenda, and where they are in an online approval status. And then they all go to an approved tab, so I can easily click a button, add it onto the agenda. So quick and dirty, a little longer than the 5 minutes promised, but always good to show the new version of the platform itself, because we're all so excited about it and we've gotten a lot of great feedback on it. And last thought on this is we've had lots of clients running live meetings on it, and they've been very pleased with it. There's a lot of great stuff coming on the roadmap as well, too.
Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate that. So let's say the scenario you've identified that you do want to purchase agenda management software. We're going to talk about how this purchase process can be simplified using procurement or procurement vehicles. So I'm going to turn it over to Martin and Ethan. I'll just kick off the topics one by one here, but obviously it's an efficient, compliant acquisition of goods and services, importance of compliance and transparency and efficiency. Number one, probably ROI or taxpayer value, and then meeting legal requirements. So Ethan, Martin, I don't know if you guys want to just run with that as the conversation starter, but why should city clerks, municipal administrators look to a third-party procurement system to help them with their purchases?
Sure, thanks.
Yeah, I could
Go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah, no problem. Lots in there, right? I mean, I'm sure everyone on the call knows about procurement and government purchasing. Josh, when you first, I think the first part of your question was using that example then, and what happens from here. And a lot of times the answer is we have to run an RFP, and we know how much fun it is to do that. Candidly, you don't want to go through it. I don't want to go through it. But we're always happy to participate by all means, and they certainly have their value. There are other contracting vehicles, methods that you are often able to utilize, and that's why we've introduced this partnership with Carahsoft. And Martin, I'll jump over to you in just a moment. Yeah, it's important to engage procurement early as well. And we're always happy to work with them from the software side of things. We know that we want to make sure that you're purchasing in a compliant method and spending taxpayers' dollars efficiently. But you also need to have the software that you know will be best for you and meet your needs, which sometimes can get caught up in the RFP process itself. So my thoughts are really engage procurement early. And there are other compliant contracting methods beyond just the RFP itself. Martin, do you have further thoughts there?
Yeah, no, Ethan, I think you definitely touched on it in some of the slides. They really are some of the lines in the slide that we were just presented with. They really kind of go hand in hand, and that's, the RFP process is a cumbersome process. It can cost man hours. It can cost review time. Typically analysis says that state and local agencies spend about $8,000 per RFP. And that's, that you have your review, you have your initial RFI where you have to build out the qualifications, and then you have your RFP, and then down selection. And once you get to that down selection process, I mean, I know I've seen it on my side, and I'm sure some of the members on this call today have also seen, is that depending on the scale of the deal, even though you've selected the product, you've selected the vendor that you want to complement your environment, then you have a protest period. So you could end up in court as well. Sole sources can be tricky because that's really going to set off the protest portion, for even small dollar items. Because if there is a like and similar product that's in that environment or within your capabilities of purchasing, then it's going to be very difficult to get a sole source justification, and you could end up finding yourself in that area again. So taxpayer value is definitely one of the leading reasons that you would want to use cooperative contract vehicles. Obviously meeting legal requirements is another one. Carahsoft holds, I'll pop in here in a second, but I've got a slide deck, but I'd probably rather make this a little bit more conversational. Carahsoft holds roughly 400 different contracting vehicles for the public sector. We've gone from $4 million in 2004 to roughly $20 billion 20 years later. And the reason that we did that, or the ability to do that, was through our connectivity with the public sector, where we focus, and the ability to understand the contracting landscape. With those 400 contracting vehicles, they're divided, as you know. Many states can't use the GSA contract, which is the premier contract for federal purchasing. So we kind of silo them off. So we have state and local vehicles, we have education vehicles, we have healthcare vehicles, and we have federal government as well, and then we have fintech too. When you're talking about the importance of compliance and transparency, that really focuses in on a lot of these state, local cooperative vehicles, as well as GSA, because we hold the NASPO contract, which I'm sure many of the people on this call are familiar with. The NASPO is pretty much the gold standard for state and local purchasing in the U.S. Depending, there are a couple of different states, Michigan, Carolinas as well, can be a little bit difficult. But we hold 44 participating addendums, and what those PAs are for is it's so that the state can go in and say, hey, these are the procurement guidelines that I need to meet, not only for purchasing, but for data protection, for end of life contracts, for choice of law. If I'm a customer, I buy from a company in Seattle, I don't want to go to Seattle if I'm in Oklahoma. So these PAs actually help the customer to purchase and secure their products and services without having to create a single contract vehicle. So it's much more broad in scope. We represent about 4,000 different 4,000 different vendors in the marketplace, and they can be everywhere from eScribe to Palo Networks, cyber IT, everything. So I'll stop there, and if you want to pick up from there, Ethan.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And I think it's a good kind of teaser about cooperative purchasing vehicles. And, I know many folks who joined us today likely are familiar with them, but we can always, we'll talk a little bit more and explain. Some might not be aware of what is available, or maybe more so that eScribe is available through Carahsoft to enable utilizing these cooperative purchasing vehicles themselves. Now, Martin's in the US, I'm Canadian. eScribe originally a Canadian business, and Carahsoft also functions and has a lot of business in Canada as well too. So sorry, that's my understanding there, Martin. But yeah, not just the US state contracts and NASPO, et cetera, but available through lots of the Canadian provincial and federal level agreements. So lots of different ways that we can make life easier to ensure you're getting what you need itself. So Martin, do you want to just give us I think getting the slide teed it up well, but tell us more about what a procurement vehicle is. If there's folks on the line who don't know exactly what that means, and
sure,
why would they use it?
Absolutely. And it really goes back to value. It's not just the technical standards that are in the contract vehicle, but it's all about the cooperative bargaining power that states enjoy, even large institutions, colleges, you name it. The federal government, the reason that the GSA exists is to make sure that the federal government receives the best possible pricing. There's actually a law within the federal acquisition regulations that states that you cannot sell to any public sector customer for less than you sell to the federal government. So that's one of the reasons, that's a starting point, is that you have a guaranteed discount off of MSRP or list price. You know, and then obviously as that trickles down, now that there is a lot of confusion there when people look at a list price and they see, okay, well, I'm only getting 2% off. So is it really worth it for me to utilize this contract vehicle? But keep in mind that most of these cooperative contract vehicles, if not all of them, that's the beginning stage of negotiation for you. So you're guaranteed 2%, but that doesn't mean you can't get 10, 15, 20%, however the vendor is going to structure that deal. But we do have to meet that minimum ceiling guideline. So as far as value is concerned, that's one thing. Another is the fact that Carousel partners with 9,600 MSPs, integrators, and value-added resellers. And what does that mean? It means that if I'm buying a product or service as a customer and I don't have the wherewithal, which we really saw during COVID, especially the first 2 years when schools were trying to like implement online learning environments, they didn't have the technical prowess to actually implement these programs. So many of these contract vehicles, Caresoft has the right to name resellers and managed service providers and integrators onto that contract vehicle. So you as a customer, you don't have to cut a PO, a purchase order for the product, and then cut another purchase order for the integrator. You can use one single contract to create a purchase order for both, and then we can split it apart and make sure that all parties are satisfied towards the end. And that's one thing, and then I think as well, when it comes to contract vehicles, having a value-added reseller that has access to it. Many of our contract vehicles are structured so that we will allow all reseller partners to utilize the contract vehicle so long as they are good standing with the vendor and with Caresoft, meaning that they have to have a line of credit. They have to, they can't violate certain terms as far as presenting pricing to the customer, those types of things. And what I've seen on the when you really drill down into the state, local, and even municipality level is that many of the technology departments, especially in smaller towns, you will see that they have like one or two IT personnel that are working for the entire town. And that value-added reseller or that managed service provider, they're invaluable to them because they're telling them, hey, these are the latest threats. These are the latest lines of technology that you're going to be able to help you prevent those things from happening. Ransomware, for instance. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to cause a disruption in that relationship. There are some contract vehicles that they've tried before in states like Texas, where they had 5 named resellers. And what happens there is that it really reduces the ability for the customer to receive best pricing. Because, once everything is figured out, as far as pricing is concerned, you kind of get a flat line as to what you're going to expect to pay. Now, that's not saying that this is still in effect in Texas, though. Texas now has one of the best contract vehicles, if not one of the premier contract vehicles in the United States with the DIR, and they also have the ramp process that guarantees that certain audits are taking place for the manufacturer.
Amazing. Yeah, there's certainly a lot there, and yeah, interesting. Sorry, a few interesting thoughts, and just kind of wrapping my head all around it. But yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it's all about providing value, making sure you're getting the best possible price on things, on software, sometimes other items as well too. But making sure that you're getting advice from, as a smaller community, for example, you might just have that one person, like you said. So making sure that you've got trusted advisors that can help make sure that you're aware of what the latest and greatest challenges are themselves.
Absolutely. And if you don't, we can help you find one. The way that we bring our partners in is if they have any type of 8A or hub certification, we make sure that we catalog that as part of their onboarding process. So say I'm in Michigan and I need a minority women-owned business in order to satisfy my set-aside spend on an annual basis, then we can find one that's right down the street from you that we're already partnered with, so you don't have to go searching through. multiple partners in order to find that diamond in the rough.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think we've covered some good ground to start. I mean, kind of halfway through what we had scheduled today, and hopefully we can give folks some time back as well. Everyone's favorite saying, but yeah, by all means, a couple of things that I was thinking about is forgive me, I lost my train of thought today, but maybe Josh, I'll defer to you for a moment. And candidly, just haven't had enough coffee and just getting over quite the nasty cold, so my head is almost fully back together.
On mute. Speaking of favorite phrases, I'm on mute. Yeah, I guess one of the things we wanted to cover before we get into the more nitty gritty of Martin's procurement vehicles, what are the actual, we mentioned a little bit about this, but how does a contract vehicle or procurement service like Carahsoft, how do they actually reduce the headache or the challenge of submission for RFP, RFI? Obviously, pre-submission challenges. A group like Carahsoft is going to know kind of the ins and outs. They've done this iteratively a number of times to where they can identify where the friction might be. Martin, I don't know if you had any more thoughts there as far as kind of a trusted procurement expert versus somebody tackling a software purchase for the first time. Maybe they only purchase software every few years. So the learning curve might be a little bit steeper for them. How does Carahsoft and its vehicles help them overcome that learning curve?
So that's a good question, Josh. I think one of the things that is of significant value is that, especially when you're looking at an RFP, RFI process, is okay, you've spent the time formulating the RFP, you've spent the money, you've taken the man hours in order to produce it and send it out into the market. What we find with a lot of our vendors as they come to Carahsoft is that they've responded, it's a great product, but the problem is that there is not a procurement vehicle that they're currently looking at. And many of the times what we do when we respond with our vendors, as we could either respond as the prime or secondary, that comes in a Carahsoft proposal shell, which provides all the accolades that we've received through the public sector. But it also helps that contracting or procurement officer to understand that, hey, my IT department wants something and I need to get it for them. And I don't have to go searching across an entire landscape in order to find it. Because of our position within the technology sector, they see those come in and they realize, okay, I'm not going to have any friction with Carahsoft. Like I said earlier, we have 400 different vehicles to purchase off of. So those can be everywhere from the national level, which are the GSAs, to the state levels, which are the NASPOs, the DIRs and such. And down granular even, we have some with single states, and we also have contract vehicles with single counties and provinces. So that we typically call those SFAR contracts, but it does really allow for an ease in procurement. Another thing that I'd like to point out, and I've almost gone through all my slides here, so we don't have to focus on that, but many of the cooperative vehicles that we hold, now I'm not going to say the NASPO contract or the GSA, these premier type of contracts, but many of the vehicles that we do hold allow for the possibility of piggybacking. So what I've found is that a lot of state institutions and agencies, and even on the county and municipal level, they may have certain requirements that are in their charters. They're establishing charters for the town that restrict them from doing conducting business in a certain way. By allowing for piggybacking to create those terms and conditions onto the contract vehicle that you're looking to purchase off of, that's going to satisfy everything. You've not only gotten your technology needs, you've gotten everything established as far as your purchasing needs. Okay, now I need to satisfy my town charter, or I need to satisfy my institutional best practices. So those things can also be added.
Right.
I had a question for you there, Martin. It's just, for someone, if someone hasn't either worked with Carahsoft before, or maybe they, or maybe hasn't used a group purchasing vehicle or state contract before, then, thinking about this from the clerk's lens, maybe if, like I said, if they haven't used those before, how would you typically guide them to enable setting up the ability to do so, whether that's with Carahsoft on the state contract side, Any tips and tricks and thoughts? And I realize every community is going to have different ordinances and bylaws to do so, but any general tips and tricks on that front?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I think one of the things is working closely, not only with your vendor partner, eScribe in this case, but also with your channel partner, if that's the route that you have to go into. And ultimately, Caresoft has a pretty strong contracting department here. We work on all levels within the public sector. We probably have about, I don't know, somewhere between 85 to 112 people on contract or in our contracts department where we can go over, the ins and outs of each vehicle. I myself, when I started with Caresoft, was capture manager. So I've actually formed a lot of the contract vehicles that Caresoft holds with the public sector now. So, I'm always reachable. I may not get back to you the same day, but I'm more than happy to help. And then for public sector customers, we discussed about how the value of having the managed and professional service providers and the VARs, the value-added resellers in place. But some customers may be a little bit hesitant to engage because a lot of these guys start out with a cost. It's like, okay, well, I've got a professional services cost of $200 an hour. And if you're in an IT department, you're in a procurement department, and you're kind of like trying to feel this out, feel free to give us a call at Caresoft. You can have the person who answers the call direct to me. And I can engage you with engineers, architects that are on staff here that can help you to field those sort of level 1 and level 2 questions. Another thing that, because of our size within the distribution channel, many, and I'm going outside of eScribe here, I'm not going to talk about other vendors, but knowing that public sector customers are on the line, is that you can call us up if you have issues with a large vendor, because some vendors out there, these large VMwares, Broadcoms of the world, your customer number 26,748,000, and you've got a technical problem. We have a lot of standing with these vendors that you can call us, and we can get that escalated very quickly. So it's always good to engage with us. And obviously, we love the relationships that we hold with our partners like eScribe and others.
That's awesome. That's really great to know. So it's not just the initial contract and getting set up, renewals, that sort of thing, but ongoing help from your side as well too. I'm sure that's beneficial, like you said, when you've got your customer number 10 billion, for lack of a better example.
Right.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or with the slide itself that was up there, Josh? Sorry, I know you just took it down, but yeah, as far as engaging procurement itself, some communities might not even have a procurement department. So get the conversation going, and your team can direct yourselves as a potential client to make sure that ensure you're using the best contracting vehicle for your scenario itself. Anything else that they might need to do to prepare for that conversation? And I can answer a lot of these questions from the eScribe side as well. Martin, not sure if you had any thoughts from your side too.
As far as preparing for engagement to purchase, or is that?
Yeah, really just teeing it up internally. Maybe a better question is getting the business case together. And I'll lead to you first and then come back to how eScribe can help with that, because I think my answers will be a lot more relevant to my own question. But getting that business case together internally, helping to ensure an internal win to be able to engage with eScribe and Caresoft as an example there. Not sure if you had any tips and tricks.
I'll just throw in there, Martin, too. I've heard anecdotally from both eScribe customers and our parent company Onboard. It's like, yeah, I tried to purchase you guys 2, 3, 4 years ago. The business use case didn't pan out, or I didn't get it through the RFP RFI process because I didn't put enough detail into the language of what we were seeking out there. What are some tips and tricks that you would provide to make the best case for a new tool or a new purchase?
So it's a really great question from all angles. And what I can say is that because of the number of vendors that we distribute for, when I started with Caresoft, we wouldn't take on competitive vendors. Reason being is because we only had a handful of vendors, and we didn't want to upset the apple cart as far as who we were working with. At this point now, though, with the number of vendors that we have, Carosoft can actually help with the business case, help you to develop it. We do need to make sure that we're very careful about how we go about that, because there comes a point where, you know, we have on staff writers, we have technical writers, we have researchers, all those things, but we have to make sure that if we're compiling a business case, we cannot put it forth as far as, hey, this is your business case, and hey, this is the best product for it. You know, we can only provide the help with, you know, establishing the business case to purchase.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think that really speaks to what the advantage of a contract vehicle or a procurement vehicle like this is offering. It's an economy of scale. You guys, you know, have exhaustive lists of all the players in the market. So if you were to say your procurement office or your procurement team that says, hey, we need 3 to 5 vendors, and you only know 1 to 2, somebody like Carosoft is going to know who all those other players in the market, so you can compare apples to apples against.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, another thing from a competitive standpoint, even if you have a contract vehicle, there are a lot of regulations at the state and local level that still say, hey, that's great, you've got a competitive contract vehicle. Now we need at least 3 competitive quotes to meet that, you know, that threshold. So that's again where we can step in and we can say, okay, that's, you know, perfect. We'll give pricing out to 3 different reseller partners and let them compete for your business. They're all on the same playing field, but you know, they're going to have to figure out how much margin capture they want to keep in order to win your business. So that really helps with that process too.
Yeah. And then Ethan, this is no knock on you, but as somebody who's in marketing, I get a lot of sales calls, a lot of sales emails, those types of things.
I'm sure you answer every single one, Josh.
Having to kind of exhaustively compare competitive solutions, just based on my interactions with them, it never seems like it's an apples to apples comparison. It seems like, oh, they gave me their limited information, they gave me their limited information, but I'm really going to have to dig to find the apples to apples comparison. I think that's another area where a contract vehicle or a contract third party like Carosoft could really help folks out, is really having those, like I said, apples to apples comparisons.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so true. And like on the eScribe side as well too, you know, I think our team has seen huge growth in helping our clients prepare the business case itself, taking a good review of how the process works today, providing guidance maybe outside of what you might have originally thought, and how we can bring efficiency to the process itself. You know, we have that many more proof points. The amount of clients who have come on board with us from small villages to very large cities across North America in the past few years is just growing exponentially. And we're always learning something new and why they actually chose eScribe itself. A couple of things. We actually have a client in New York, a county that is looking at coming on board with us within the next month or so. They are looking at hiring, like they are, as clerks' offices always are, they're completely slammed all the time. They're overworked. Lots of last minute information appears that makes them have to stay late. And you know, their resources, they're stretched as just a few people in their office. So they're looking at bringing on an additional person. But they realize the challenge of having to train that person. Maybe they can't find someone who has clerk related experience. Maybe it might not have municipal experience itself. So they're bringing us on for that primary reason of platform is going to give them that much more time back in their day to enable them to focus on the strategic initiatives that they want to be focusing on. So long story short, we're happy to work with you on building that business case based on what we've learned from our other clients over the past few years, and hopefully get you that win. Is always my absolute favorite thing, is seeing the outcome and making your life easier and taking away that administrative tax burden more than anything.
Yeah, and to anecdotally add on that, or not anecdotally, because this is actually research based, but in our annual state of clerk's office survey, which will be coming out with the new 2025 edition here soon, you know, we asked people, if you're considering purchase any kind of meeting management software, collaboration software for your office, what is the #1 challenge in getting that software, you know, actually purchased and into your office and use? And the #1 answer is always budget. That's always the biggest constraint for most municipalities, and that taxpayer value has to be preserved, obviously. But I was really surprised at the second question, or the second most popular answer was, well, the current process works. And I don't think that is necessarily indicative of like, yes, it's a very optimized, efficient, effective process. It's just like somehow the process gets done. So I think being able to enumerate and actually break down that ROI or that potential ROI of software is incredibly important. And I think obviously Martin, probably has a lot of experience in dealing with those business cases and actually identifying the cost savings, either through resources or human capital that may be available.
Correct.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead there, Martin. I just
No,
had
no, no. I
a
was
very
just
real
agreeing.
world example on that. Um, uh, Josh, to your point of, no matter what the work gets done, I mean, that comes at a number of stresses, for yourselves in the clerk's office and elsewhere as well. And there's actually a large county of about 500,000 residents in Virginia that is moving forward with eScribe through Carahsoft. They're aiming to do so before the end of the calendar year. The county administrator and the deputy county administrator and two other the highest employees within that organization, they have to stay late every other Thursday for their meetings, as it's always a nightmare getting their agenda together. And the one gentleman who's kind of third in command, he has a young child at home. He said, I do not get home to see my son on those nights every other week, and a lot of times it's till 10 p.m. or midnight. So the big win that they're looking for and going to enable is the ability to get home on time and have dinner with your child. It's amazing how it happens at all levels. But like you said, at the end of the day, the work will get done, but what's the burden that comes along with that? And I think another byproduct that we often see with that is the the increase in human error as well too. I mean, we're all human, right? So ensuring consistent output and product and that as well.
Yeah,
I'm honestly thinking of buying it myself. I mean, my calendar's all over the place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the other benefits is obviously fewer last minute changes if you have everything kind of tight and tidy within a system like that. We are just about 3/4 through the webinar. Obviously, we want to give time and space for audience questions if there are any. Before we get to that, though, Miguel, our webinar operator, if you could go ahead and launch our quick poll just to get an idea of how we've done so far on this webinar presentation for you all, just to go we can do a better job next time. And then if you are interested in eScribe, we can identify that interest. So yeah, 15 seconds, 2 questions, shouldn't be too hard. Martin, I'm just going to put you on the spot here. Have you ever seen a horror story of someone who didn't use a thorough RFP?
Halloween related question.
I've seen one where a thorough RFP was done. Star Wars project is one that comes to mind. I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 million was the project cost. And it was up between, I believe it was AWS and Microsoft. And we were the ones who were heading that as far as distributor is concerned. And, anytime you get into those numbers, you're going to have protests, which are normal. Luckily for the procurement officer for the federal government, he ran a very tight ship. So we were able to guide. Actually, it wasn't Star Wars. It was called Jedi. That's what it was. I mean, it's an easy thing to mix up, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I have, and I've seen where vendors couldn't accomplish because the state hadn't gone through the necessary hoops they had to, and you delayed the process. And again, striking back to COVID, it caused a mess with some local and state school districts, because they just didn't understand, how to use these vehicles or where they could find the technologies. That's one of the great things about some of the contracts that we hold is that, we have discretion on adding vendors, immediately to catalog, because everything that we have is at a minimum discount that's comparable to the GSA schedule. So, customers can understand I'm getting the same price as the federal government. And, but I'm able to get the technology that I need on the contract that I'm capable of using.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, I mean, just from my point of view, as someone who actually filled out the Caresoft profile on behalf of our business, it certainly standardizes what you're looking at when you're looking at a company. Instead of just seeing their flashy website or their awesome sales representative, Ethan, you're seeing a standard set of questions, standard information across the kind of the marketplace that Caresoft represents. So it's a little bit of a kind of a objective filter for these companies as well when you're actually out there shopping for a new piece of software or another solution there.
That's a good
Audience
point.
members. Oh, sorry, Martin.
No, that I was going to say just one last thing for all the guests that are on the line today is that Caresoft does provide microsite capability for every one of our vendors where they can put the latest and greatest news and articles on there. So that way you can come to a single source to look for the vendor. They're categorized according to the vertical that they're in. So if you're in healthcare, we have a healthcare vertical. You can just click on that button. You can find all the different providers, and then you can watch their videos, their trainings, their how-to, all sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Audience members, I do not see any questions in the chat at the moment or the Q&A, so we'll just leave that open for about a minute. And if we don't get any kind of salient questions or anything like that, we'll go ahead and, as Ethan says, give the time back. Yeah, Ethan, any closing thoughts as we wait for any additional questions or comments?
Really, the main thought is that Martin, of course, appreciate you being here from Caresoft side today. We've seen a big increase in municipalities working with us via Caresoft to bring eScribe on sooner than they would hope. Huge increase, and a lot more looking at doing so. Many just weren't aware of this option. It is much newer, and we appreciate it. It's opened up a lot of helpful avenues on both sides. So if you want to explore them, by all means, feel free to reach out. But yeah, that's my main thought, is seeing that bigger increase, piggybacking piece as well to just enable you to get up and running sooner with the platform itself. And Josh, my joke earlier when you were talking about horror stories, I was thinking about how tomorrow's Halloween. It's like, very timely itself. I thought you were going for a cheesy dad joke like we all love.
Well, I was going to get nitty gritty because there was a really, I mean, this was a few years ago in my home state here in Indiana, where I mean, the Family and Social Services Administration had a contract with IBM, and I think it was a direct contract, or they probably went through a lot of vetting. But there was a lawsuit, and it came down to like a very tiny line item in the contract about how the service was going to be rendered. And my thinking now is like, well, I don't know if if you had a third party that was accurately reviewing that contract as part of their due diligence, coupled with your due diligence, that might have been prevented. So I think that's just one example of things that can be avoided. But yeah.
Yeah, I saw a couple of customers from the state of New York that are online here, and I actually had a deal with agency in the state of New York, and the RFP was put together, and they asked for the OGS contract has separate lots that you can sell off of, right? You have cloud technologies, you have services, those types of things. The product that they wanted had both services and technology tied to it. And they asked for lot 1. Those others are lot 3 and lot 4 is what they actually needed to do. So they spent all the man hours doing this RFP, and then we were able to respond. We responded under the correct lots, and procurement just said, absolutely not. We can't do this. You wrote the RFP wrong. Go back to phase 1. I mean, it's like playing Monopoly. Go to jail, go directly to jail.
Yeah. My experience that I've sold into procurement before is that, if it can either be a two-sided coin, they can be very helpful and make sure you have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted, or they can send you back to square one, like you say on Monopoly there.
Right.
So great. Well, I hope we ended on a high note. Again, I'm not seeing any additional questions from the audience members, so we'll go ahead and give time back, as the phrase goes. Martin, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insights and just the benefits and just the avenues that Caresoft and other third-party procurement providers provide, to put it mildly. And then Ethan, as always, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for coming on today. And audience members, if you do have any questions, please do email us, and we will send a follow-up email as a thank you for attending. We'll include the recorded session of this webinar as well as the slides that were presented. So thank you very much and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks
you guys.
all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martin, for being here. Thanks, Josh. Good to see you too, my friend. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
See ya.